Hello, my name is Richard Corbett from emergebydesign.net, and welcome to my weekly astrological and human design transit forecast, starting this week on Monday, September 1st through Sunday, September 7th. Now, this week we're going to be wrapping up my report on Sunday the 7th with a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. Now, along the way this week, we're going to have Mercury squaring Uranus and Mars squaring Jupiter. And to remember that we started this lunar cycle with our new moon in Virgo just over a week ago. So as we go through this week, we are past the first quarter moon, which happened over the weekend, and this will be the week leading up to the full moon. So every day, the moon is growing in illumination and emotional energy. There's a rising up, especially after the first quarter moon, a heightened sense of emotions as we move whatever processes we are in forward, where it will culminate with the full moon in Pisces. So let's go ahead and jump into the charts. While we do that, I want to thank everyone for joining me for these. I greatly appreciate the comments and the likes. And if you do get some support out of these and haven't subscribed yet, please join us. We love to grow our community here and appreciate you being here. While I'm pulling the chart up, also just when I'm looking at the screen, noticing this amazing scenery, Brandy and I are finally back in our hometown of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we are preparing for the 5th annual High Desert Human Design Conference. I hope we'll get to see some of you there. We can't wait. It's got an incredible lineup of speakers this year. We're so excited to be joining again. We're going to be doing a deep dive, a 5-hour workshop on the archetype of Chiron. We've put together some new material that we are really excited to offer everyone. So hope to see some of you there. If you can make it, it's going to be a blast. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the charts. Here we have Monday, September 1st. As a reminder, all of these charts are always run for noon Mountain Time for the day that we're looking at, except for the lunation. So when we get to the full moon, I'll indicate what time that chart is for, but all of these other charts are for noon Mountain Time. And as we look at the body graph, let's go ahead and start with the sun and earth. The sun is still moving through the sign of Virgo in gate 40, line 5, which puts the earth, which is always opposite the sun in the body graph, in Pisces in gate 37. Now, this channel in human design is called the Channel of Community, a design of a part seeking the whole. Now, this is part of our tribal circuit group. So we are very much, as we move into Monday, still possibly concerned with our family bonds, work, people that are close to us, very close. And it has a lot to do with loyalty and support and expectations. But we're really being brought into this sense of family and community with the channel 40 or gate 40 and gate 37. You know, in the body graph, this is one of the 3 channels that is formed by 2 gates that are opposite each other in the rave mandala, in the wheel. So those 3 channels are the most common channels statistically in the body graph. We get them every year for at least 2 weeks. When the sun goes through gate 40, we know the earth is going to be in gate 37, and so we get this channel of community for 2 weeks every year. So just want to mention that it's a very strong theme for our species to be associated with how we take care of each other. How is our family and our relationships and our bonding going with each other? And also thinking about that sign of Virgo, what type of service and work and attuning to the details of those relationships, how is it going right now? Something's moving as we're going towards this full moon. The other channel I want to indicate as we're looking at the body graph is the channel of the brainwave, and it's a design of penetrating awareness. This is coming from gate 57 in the Splenic Awareness Center, being activated by Mars moving through Libra right now. And at the other end of that channel, we have Uranus in Gemini in gate 20. Now, this channel of the brainwave is speaking to this bone-deep inner intuition. And so one of the themes, I think, because we're going to have this channel all week long, just to contemplate this idea of presence. Uranus, the planet of innovation, change, wildness. It's the planet of freedom, if you will, revolution and freedom in gate 20. It's doing its work where it's mutating this channel. Possibly from our intuitions right now, we may be hearing our voice, a self-empowering voice come through. So I think being present this week is going to help because we're going to have a few challenging aspects in the midweek area, and I'll get to those in a moment. But we do have this channel of the brainwave for the week. Now, if we look at the astrological wheel, I do want to point out the moon having already come off the first quarter moon. The moon is traveling through Sagittarius as of Monday and is in gate 11. And while the moon is there for the larger part of the daylight hours in the northern hemisphere, the moon will be forming a grand fire trine with Mercury and Leo in gate 59, or I'm sorry, gate 29, that's what I meant to say, and also with Chiron retrograde in Aries in gate 3 at the moment. And so a grand fire trine is indicating that there is, again, an intuition possible. Fire is very associated with change, with intuition. It's a rapidly developing element, and it's in this a fire trine, which is indicating that these planets are working together. So when I think about Mercury in gate 29 in the sacral center, this is the gate of saying yes or no. So to be contemplating with our deep gate 57 intuition, what are we saying yes to in terms of our chironic healing? How are we supporting our healing process? And the moon in gate 11, what ideas, what possibilities, what can we find and reach for as we are contemplating and moving through and communicating about our activities, our Virgo attention to details of our healing process right now? And we may get a little bit of a breakthrough. We may see some progress with that beautiful trine being formed here on Monday. Okay, let's go ahead and move into Tuesday, September 2nd. On Tuesday, Mercury is going to move into the sign of Virgo. That will happen in gate 29, line 6. But by the time we get to this noontime chart that I'm showing here, Mercury will have moved into gate 59 in the channel of mating. Gate 59 is in the sacral center. So again, we're getting a very strong sense of tribal circuitry with the still activated channel of community for one more day on Tuesday, and Mercury wanting to communicate within those intimate bonds. Now, as Mercury passes 0 degrees Virgo and moves into the next sign, it's going to be communicating and activating in relationship to the 3 outer planets, because we have Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius in gate 60. We have Neptune at 1 degree of Aries in gate 25, still conjunct Saturn, who just a couple of days ago moved back into the sign of Pisces in retrograde. And that Mercury is also going to activate Uranus at 1 degree of Gemini. I'm going through this minor trine between the outer planets. It's a fascinating formation that I've been talking about for many weeks now, and it's very tight. All of those planets are at 1 degree of their respective signs, and I think this formation of the outer planets, I think we won't know for quite some time what it all means. So this is one of the big outer planet longer term transits, but it's very acute right now. But as I look at it and I think about how tragic much of the world is right now, how chaotic the wars, the discord, the polarization, it can get a little bit overwhelming. And so for all of this, so important every day to find our center space, to breathe, to regulate our emotions, to find the inner quiet within. But what I'm saying is, with this crazy world right now, when you look at this formation of the outer planets, something important is happening. And they're working together. It's almost something to the divine. There's something so powerful and so big, it's hard for us to grasp what's going on right now. But it does give me encouragement when I see that minor trine between Pluto, and it's clear, even though Saturn's not an outer planet, Saturn's still tied up in that minor trine, and Neptune and Uranus. So you'll see that for a number of weeks. It will start to fade as we go into the fall, but next year, as we move into spring, it's going to come back very strong again. So it's a big backdrop, the undercurrent to everything that's taking place right now. But I wanted to highlight it again this week just to remind everyone that as every planet changes signs, it is directly tying into that divine plan, whatever that is going on with the outer planets. We will see as time moves forward. So again, back to Mercury, moving into gate 59, it's activating that outer planet trine, and it's in a quincunx with Saturn and Neptune still in gate 25. So when I think about Mercury in the channel of intimacy, 59.6, wanting to communicate, we have the channel of community as well. So we're communicating in our relationships, how all that is working out during this Virgo season. And we're being pointed to a frictional element with gate 25, the gate of innocence. And it really speaks to this idea of life without preconditions or expectations. It speaks to meeting life with pure self-love and innocence. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but this is part of the opportunities that we are seeing this week. And I think we might be feeling some of that on Tuesday, particularly with that Mercury moving into Virgo and, of course, moving closer and closer to the sun. So we'll be seeing a Mercury-Sun conjunction on the horizon. So let's go ahead and move it into Wednesday, September 3rd. Now, we get a completely different picture here. If we look at the body graph, the sun has moved into gate 64 in Virgo, putting the Earth in its opposition in gate 63. Now, if we look at the head center and the ajna center, oh my goodness, with the sun in gate 64, it's called the gate of confusion. It's a head pressure to think about the past, to go over our emotional experiences that were delivered from the solar plexus. You know, seeing the frames of the picture, the past. Sometimes it comes in flashes and images. And this channel, this archetype is very busy, mentally busy with going over the past. Well, if we look at the other end of that channel, opposite gate 64, we have the south node in gate 47. Well, the south node is also about the past. So I think by the time we get to Wednesday with this configuration, just to be aware that we could get caught up into that mental hamster on the wheel, going over and over and having a little bit of mental oppression, worrying about the past. But remember, when we feel that way, to, again, center, to breathe, to recognize that it's doing its job. It's working towards emotional clarity through a mental highway, if you will. And in addition to that, we have on Wednesday, the moon will be transiting gate 61, another head pressure center called the gate of mystery, my story. And also we have the Earth opposite gate 64 is in gate 63, another head pressure gate called the pressure to doubt. Now, as we look at the head center and the ajna center, this is a lot of activations. So, and we're going to have that gate 64, gate 47, that energy will be with us all the way through the week. So yeah, to remember as we go into that full moon, and the moon is also applying her emotional pressure, there's going to be a lot of mental gymnastics, if you will. So just remember, if that happens to you, to recognize, to go back into the body. We want to follow our personal human design authority. It's doing its job right there. So at any rate, big change we have there on Wednesday with that configuration. Additionally, Mercury has, as of noon on Wednesday, has just come across its square to Uranus. So Mercury, again, in gate 59, would have just formed a square to Uranus in gate 20. And once again, I'm thinking about this tribal channel of intimacy, and as it is in a frictional relationship to the channel of the brainwave. So we're seeing something individual is challenged by relationships. And so again, it's going to be very important to listen to the body, the innate wisdom of our body, as we try to work through, with our Virgo season nature here, work through issues of the body. And of course, that Chiron is still very connected as well. Chiron, the wounded healer, is very connected to the energy this week. And I want to mention here that it is in gate 3. And Pluto has traveled retrograde and is back into gate 60, the gate of limitations, until October. It'll return to gate 41, not until December 6th. Okay, so we've got Pluto in gate 60 all the way through December. From now until September 11th, we have Chiron in gate 3, Pluto in gate 60, activating the channel of mutation. a design that initiates and fluctuates. Now, I think there's a big story here. I know Brandy and I are going to do another video on the full moon for this coming weekend, and we're going to talk more about that channel. But it is, when we think about the healing process, it does change us. It mutates us. This idea of forgiveness of others, of ourselves, of the experience, reframing traumatic experiences by nature causes a up level in the cellular structure and the mutation of our being. And I think for all of us right now, this is a deep mutative time for change. And I think that it's that Saturn and Neptune in gate 25 that is the fulcrum of the larger pattern at work right now. And again, tuning into this idea of woundedness, forgiveness, and innocence, how we can rise above through our own experiences to accept what is. And that's another piece of gate 60 with Pluto there. What limitations have been holding us back? What fear, doubt, insecurity, when we feel it, and we may feel a bit of it this week with our mind going around and around with those other activations, things may be bubbling up, coming to the surface. And if we can hold space for ourselves right now, the process of alchemy and mutation will happen on its own. This is why in these transits we talk about aligning with the energy, always following personal authority. Everyone that works with us know in human design that is the path to self-empowerment. But certainly aligning with the transits is opening our awareness to the gifts and the potential of the winds of change that they bring. And right now with that channel of the brainwave and the channel of mutation with Chiron and Pluto, these are deep mutative processes being brought to us by the transit field. And we don't want to let ourselves get overwhelmed or push too hard. Right now, I think it's about being focused on health, wellness, and sustainability. Thinking about the spleen. I'm also thinking about that sign of Virgo because we are still working on this new moon in Virgo cycle. So yes, there is Wednesday. And it also, when I go from Wednesday into Thursday, I take a look at that moon there traveling through Capricorn as she's growing in illumination every day on her way to the full moon. She's wanting to get the work done. And over these next 24 hours, when I get to the next chart, you're going to see the moon is going to have a conjunction with Pluto. So let's go ahead and pull up the Thursday chart for September 4th. This is at noontime, and you can see that the moon at 4 degrees Aquarius has already had her conjunction with Pluto, which would have happened in the early morning hours. But once again, as a planet such as the moon changes signs, the moon is going to be conjunct Pluto, sextile Saturn, sextile Neptune, and trine Uranus. So that whole minor trine is being activated by this very powerful lunar energy on Thursday. And I think that's why on Thursday with the moon, and I would say this again, is the moon when she gets down to Saturn and Neptune conjunction, and then a few days later with the Uranus conjunction, these are when we may get some emotional hits or emotional downloads as she's connecting our inner world to this larger outer planet world. And so And also being, when the moon is conjunct Pluto, of course, that's going to be happening in gate 60, back in the gate of limitation in that channel of mutation. And so again, there is a deep process at work here, particularly until September 11th, when Chiron moving retrograde will back out of gate 3 back into gate 42 for a while. We'll get to that down the road, but I think that's really important to keep in mind this week with Chiron and Pluto. So yeah, moon conjunct Pluto, something may want to come up, right? As we're doing our healing work, Pluto opens up the underworld for us. We can name our shadow. We can commune with it, talk to it. It loses that fear-based element when we can integrate what we need to see. Because if there's one thing that I love about Pluto, he is here to bring our ultimate truth. He helps strip away the false facade of ego and brings up our own truth of self-empowerment. And so that is certainly in play as we're looking at where we are in this moon cycle. As she's growing in illumination, we'll reach the full moon, then she'll have the conjunction with Saturn, Neptune, and then in the waning phase, we'll get the conjunction with gate 20. So something to keep an eye on there. Now let's go ahead and move it into Friday, September 5th. And Mercury still traveling through Virgo, his home sign, will move into gate 40, the gate of aloneness in the ego center. Now, of course, we just had this whole channel activated with the sun and the earth. They've moved on, and now Mercury is going to activate this gate 40 on his way to a conjunction with the sun coming up. But on Friday also, the moon is going to pass through a trine to Mars in Libra in gate 57. And there again, the moon will be in gate 13 at that time. This is the gate of the listener. And it's also just sort of a double emphasis on this listening to the body. Mars is a lot of energy. Now, technically, he is in his detriment in the sign of Virgo. He's not as interested in the diplomacy and the harmony and the balance that Libra is always seeking, but he can still be Mars and have that energy. So it is a lot of energy to be transiting gate 57. And with the moon trining gate 57 and gate 13, it's double emphasizing this idea of listening. And I'm talking about not just listening more closely to our loved ones, our friends and family, and intimate relationships, but listening to our body. I have to remind us about that channel of abstraction up there, 6447. The mind has, the chart is indicating that our minds are going to be extremely busy as we go through the second half of this week. And that's why I think it's going to be so important for us to really get out of our head and into the body, and let's see what this spleen has to offer us this week. I think it'll be quite important. And then we'll head into Saturday. Here's the chart for Saturday, September 6th. And on Saturday, if you take a look at Uranus down there in Gemini, he has turned retrograde. He will be in retrograde all the way until February 3rd. So he's really, these outer planets, when they turn retrograde or turn forward, they are really holding space. They hardly move even a minute or two of a degree. And so he's just really sitting with his breakthrough, revolutionary, lightning-like change and adaptation in this gate 20. And so when we think about gate 20, whether or not it's activated in your natal chart, we're all getting a taste of gate 20. And it's about listening to our voice. This gate is called the archetype of existentialism. It's pure presence in the moment. And so again, just every day, wanting to bring our awareness back to this channel of the brainwave and what we may hear or be able to hear from our bodies, health and wellness, our splenic intuition, what is possible this week. Something really important. This could be a great week to do the journaling again, ask the questions, put out a prompt for yourself, and see what your unconscious wild mind body wants to say about it. Could be really profound, particularly this week. Also, on Saturday, the moon here on this astrological chart is 1 degree Pisces, has just moved into the sign of Pisces. And to remember that as the moon moves through Pisces, she is going to transit every gate in the solar plexus except one. The only gate that in the solar plexus that's not in Pisces is gate 6, because gate 6 is in Virgo. But the moon will transit gate 36, and because 6 is opposite 36, in a sense, it is pulling into gate 6. So I just want to emphasize how associated the solar plexus is with the world of Pisces, this mutable water sign, the water of the world, of the oceans of the world. It's quite a lunar emotional buildup to the full moon in Pisces that we'll have the very next day. So again, I think this idea of listening to our emotions, being present, not getting out in front of ourselves, not projecting that our emotions are someone else's fault. Even if we're undefined solar plexus in your natal chart, we still want to follow our authority to regulate our own emotional system. But I think with emotion, with the mental process spinning so fast and the heightened emotions, it could have certainly some degree of turbulence out there as we head into this full moon on Sunday. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Now, as I pull up this chart for a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces on Sunday, September 7th, I want to indicate that It is exact at 12:08 p.m. Mountain Time. And I know that Brandy and I are going to do another video and a deeper dive into this full moon. So let me just share a few of the main archetypes that I see going on. Well, first of all, it's an eclipse. Right? We are in eclipse season. And, you know, in ancient history, eclipses were incredibly feared. They often brought about a king's fall from the throne or a famine. You know, often terrible things seem to happen. Well, as we have evolved and understood the cosmos better, we have come to realize that eclipses often do bring change, and it can seem sudden. I mean, just watching an eclipse is quite an exciting thing to see one of our luminaries who is supposed to be shining to go dark, and particularly to see a full moon go dark. But they often indicate sudden or dramatic change. However, it's after the change that we might be able to look back and go, well, I kind of saw that coming. So I really appreciate eclipses. We may not always like change, but often it's what gets us moving forward again. And so it's really a time of acceptance and release. What dies under an eclipse, whether it be a job, a relationship, a friendship, or whatever it might be, if your chart in particular is directly connected to an eclipse, you will often experience a sense of change or loss. But to know that it was for you, that it was time for that, like a fruit falling from the tree, the time had come. And so that is always part of the eclipse season. Because the moon is in Pisces, conjunct the North Node, it's also going to be encouraging us to think about the path forward. Sometimes we need to make changes to step into our future. And so it's obviously, being a lunar eclipse with the North Node, it's very much oriented towards our future. It's sort of a harbinger of the future. And if we look at the opposition with the sun in Virgo, we're still feeling this sense of Virgo, this sense of self-mastery, of taking care of the little details, right? The sun in gate 64, called the gate of confusion, but that is in Virgo. So there's a lot of mental activity, but it's equipped to handle it. And having Mercury conjunct the sun within 5 degrees in his home sign also brings this added degree of mental acuity to understand the situation. And so I think that's a big theme of the full moon. Additionally, we'll take a look at Venus a little bit closer. She's in a challenging aspect, in a quincunx to the moon itself, and also in a square and a half to the Saturn and the Neptune. So Venus in Leo in gate 7, the role of the self in interaction, this idea of leadership and how that leadership forward is going to be challenged by the involution, dissolution, and evolution of our future going forward. There is certainly a story there, and I look forward to having some fun with this chart when Brandy and I get together again. I hope you will check us out for that. But let me wrap it up here by saying thank you for being here, and I wish you all some wonderful space for yourself this week to really tune in. Be mindful of the mental overreaching, overacting, acting up, acting out of our minds. It can really get out in front of us sometimes. But with this channel of the brainwave, there is powerful, innovative, electric energy to go deep into our intuitions and to listen to the innate wisdom of our body. So thank you all so much. Have a great week. Bye for now.